What is good, ladies and gentlemen? In this episode of Chopping It Up, we are talking to legendary engineer Lu Diaz, where we dive into what it's like working with iconic artists such as Drake, PITBULL, DJ Khaled, and what it takes to be successful in the music industry. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Right here, we have the one, the only, the Grammy Award winning with over 52 platinum and gold awards. The legendary Lu Diaz is joining us live right now. I got to give you a proper round of applause, Lu, man. First of all, I want to thank you so much, bro. I want to thank you so much, man, for tuning into this show, man, and everything that, first of all, you've done within the music industry. You and your brother, man, Hugo, have done amazing things. You guys work with amazing people. Growing up in Miami, myself personally, I've seen the meteoric rise of PITBULL and everything that you guys have done with so many different talented artists. So I want to thank you so much, man. It truly is a blessing to have you on the show.
I appreciate that, man. A huge kind word, bro. And man, I haven't seen you in a minute, so it's good to see you, bro.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you,
hey,
man. Again,
can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly, yo. So,
all right, cool. Just want to make sure that mic's working.
So, listen, Miro. Listen, you've worked with so many fucking crazy talented artists, but I kind of want to start in the beginning. You were born in Santiago, Chile. You moved to Miami when you were very young. You started your first record label when you were 18 years old. You had the entrepreneur spirit, obviously, since a young age. You and your brother and Hugo.
Yeah, for sure.
Where do you think that came from? And like, aside from that, like, what hurdles, when you first got into the music industry, like, what hurdles did you have to overcome to get to where you're at right now?
Damn, man, but that was so long ago, to be honest with you. So it was a different world. Mm-hmm. But the hurdle was just, man, we didn't know what we were doing, man. I just kind of like I thought to myself, I was in the music. I kind of gravitated to sort of the label thing, and it was just being young and naive, man. Just being like young, stupid, and just said, screw it. You know what I'm saying? We went ahead and did it, and it wasn't a perfect lineup. It was crazy. It was a crazy ride, but all in all, though, it worked out. One thing led to the next. Like every certain amount of time, it started to sort of stack on itself. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So the work started like seeing fruits, and I was like, all right, this might work. And that led to a bunch of other things, but it was kind of like the nexus of me and Hugo really getting sort of to know the music business.
And that's one of those things that I think music finds people. I think it just, you're just naturally gifted with it. What would you say within that span of time? What would you say was that first major break that you think that you got within the music industry? That first major thing that you're like, damn, yo, listen, I think I got it. We got something special here. What would that be?
To me, the funny part about it, at least from my engineering career, was really my brother, bro. It was Hugo, because what happened was, we did the label thing. We were young, we were doing that. It was kind of like I was trying to figure it out. He's 5 years younger than me, so he was a little kid, but he was absorbing everything as he's we're around. And it came a point where me and my first wife were having our first baby, so shit got real. You know what I'm saying? I was like, whoa, hold on, So he came to me because now he was a little older. I think I was about 21. To around there. So he was just about like 17, something like that. And he was like, yo, I want to get in this music shit. And that's when I was like, all right, bro, listen, take the equipment and have at it. You know what I'm saying? Right, I was like, yo, hold up. Like, the music that was cool, but like I had to figure out life. You know what I mean? Life just got different. So he went and got a record deal with two groups that he had. And he got a record deal with Atlantic Records, which blew my mind. I was like, what? Like I was mad proud of my little brother, you know what I mean? And so long story short, he actually asked me to track the record because we had the label in the studio or whatever. I already kind of knew what I was doing, but I didn't call myself an engineer. You know what I mean? I was just doing it because we couldn't afford to hire an engineer. So when I tracked those albums for Hugo, I made a little money, which was crazy. And it made me think, man, maybe I could do this, And then when we turned in, I was doing little rough mixes after every time we finished a song, I would do a quick little 15, 20-minute rough. And then not knowing that, what I was doing, the label kind of got married to the demos. So then when it came time to mix the album, or the first single, what do you call it? We recommended a engineer we knew. And then the label got it back, and they were like, yo, like the low end ain't right. You know what I mean? Like they were kind of married to the demo a little bit. Right. But it was also because the engineer that we had recommended was like a dance guy. You know what I mean? This was like a dance hall group. So that right there is kind of what got the spark in me to go, maybe I could do this. You know, I didn't think I was an engineer. I didn't call myself an engineer. You know what I mean? And that made me think, you know what? Maybe I could do this. That was the beginning. I mean, it was a long road before I actually did it. But that was really the nexus that made me go, you know, all right, let me see if I can figure this out. You know, and this is that record now, I cringe, but that got me gigs, and the dude Peter Thomas was the one who brokered the deals for my brother, got me more work, and then, you know, that kind of started building things. You know what I mean? And then at least from an engineering perspective, that was the nexus for me.
You know, that right there, you know, you never really know. Like, it's very difficult. I would say, you know, it's very difficult. You don't know what is next within the music industry. Like, the random connections you meet and the random people that you meet.
Yeah.
Like, what would you say was that random connection? You're like, how the fuck did this happen? Like, was there any one person you met? You're like, damn, bro, I introduced you to somebody else, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, I mean, this is crazy.
Probably the biggest thing was, after a while, I was engineering for a while. You know, this story is not super short, but as I was working or whatever, Hugo and I were producing. We weren't officially the Diaz brothers. We were just kind of doing remixes and stuff, and we're doing remixes for Sony Latin in Miami. So a lot of all the Latin artists, we were doing kind of the crossover radio dance mixes and hip hop mixes or whatever. And we did a remix for an artist named Ivy Queen, and Wyclef was featuring on it, right? So because we went to the studio, my brother, I remember, played the record Hot Chocolate. We sampled it, we looped it, and then the guy at Power 96, which was kind of a friend of ours, he was like, yo, I'm going with this record. So they started playing it. So the president of Sony Latin freaked out because he was like, yo, we don't, you know, back then you didn't have, you know, like today, you can hear Latin music on American radio. Back then, that wasn't even like a thing. So he freaked out. He goes, I'm gonna shoot a new video for the remix you guys did. So long story short, we got to meet Clef. Right? So we're at the video shoot, and we're back by the pool, like between takes or whatever. And my brother goes, yo, listen, like, give us some advice, man. You know, we're here. And Clef was like, yeah, bro. He's like, you know, if I were you guys, because, you know, you come this far, you sit in front of me. He goes, I would find an artist and invest yourselves in that. So that was like a gem that he dropped on us. I didn't really realize that he was doing that, but, you know, in my mind, I remember thinking, all right, cool. Both Hugo and I were both thinking that. And I happened to have a session coming up about 3 weeks after that at Luke's studio in the Beach. I go in to mix his album called Something Nasty. And I'm playing, you know, I bring up the faders and start working. And this kid comes in, sits next to me. I'm thinking, you know, he's like the intern or the coffee runner, whatever.
Right.
And so that I'm hearing like somebody on the track, and I'm like, I know everybody on Luke's, you know, roster. So I'm like, who the hell is this? And he's like, that's me. And I was like, nah, bro. What do you mean that's you? Like, I'm thinking this kid's the intern, you know? And long story short, you know, he was like, no. I mean, I'm happy here at Luke's, but my contract's gonna run out in about a month. And we had a nice little exchange. We really like kind of hit it off. And I remember I called Hugo. By the way, that was Pitt. That's how me and Pitt met. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it was such a like circumstance. Like, I would have never in a million years even thought about an artist. So Clef said it, and then I happened to be there. Pitt walks in, and him and I hit it off. And a month later, like I told him, listen, if you get off the contract and you want to you want to mess with us, let me know. And sure enough, bro, like he called us about, you know, a month later, month and a half, something like that. And I told Hugo, I was like, yo, bro, you're not gonna believe this shit. That kid I told you about, he called me, you know? And we had a meeting at my brother's house, I remember, and he placed a couple of freestyles. And that was it, man. We looked at each other like, yo, this kid's gonna be a star. You know?
He's a star. And exactly. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, Pitbull,
Pitbull,
for real, knock on wood. I mean, Pitbull he truly revolutionized that Latin American vibe in pop culture, to say the least. I mean, that's really what it is, because he kind of blended that American feel, but he brought not only the Cuban side of things, but like the Latin side of things in general.
For sure.
And I think he was the first to. I mean, there was mixes that sprinkles of that, you know, before, but never like that, like never like him. And he really took it to the next level.
No, for sure.
That on that rise, you know, to before, when Pitbull was coming out with, you know, with Miami, you know, Money's a Major Issue, and all those records like that. Culo, for example, was another one that was just it changed everything too.
That was actually the one. That was the one that actually like catapulted everything forward. Like that's what we were working for when I broke that. Yeah, that changed everything.
I'll never forget where I was. You know how certain records you hear,
Yeah.
music is like a memory trigger. It's so
It
strange, but it
is.
really
It
is.
is. It
I
is.
was driving, it had like an '89 Acura Integra, all fucked up, and I'm driving this shit, and I hear Kulo come on a Power
Right.
96. I'm just
Right.
like, damn, with Laz, Laz and shit was spinning. I'm like, damn,
Yeah.
bro, what the fuck is this? And like
Yeah.
it's almost immediate, like immediately. And when people
Yeah.
heard that, that's exactly what you guys heard, but you guys heard it before.
Right.
How was that feeling like on that rise for all of Pitbull's stardom?
Well, what's funny is that whole rise of Pit was like a culmination because we had done so many freestyles and so many. We had a record called Oye that made it on the Too Fast and Furious soundtrack. So we had gotten to taste the radio, like at least locally, where we were. So we were living that. We were building on it or whatever. But Kulo was like a rocket. Like I remember because Kulo was Mr. Vegas's record. It came out. I heard it. I was like, oh, dope. Cool rhythm, whatever. But everybody, all the Chicos and everybody, I'm be in line. We thought he was saying, Kulo. Or we were kind of joking. And I remember Pitt was like, yo, I'm gonna do a remix of it and just throw it on radio like we do with every other record that would come out. Pitt would just jump on it. But when he jumped on that record, I remember he brought it to me at the studio, and it was just one verse and a hook, and I was like, yo, bro, should probably do another verse because this shit is amazing. It was catchy, And so it was a crazy story because he comes to the studio, plays it for me, boom, whatever. I was actually working on Damn It, Man. I was doing a rough mix of Damn It, Man. He comes in, he plays it Kulo, and then he goes and meets Little John because me and my brother were friends with John from way back when John was an A&R guy for So Def. He was a DJ. He wasn't an artist. So when John broke, we got in touch with him again, and I was like, yo, I got this kid, blah, blah, whatever. So he was trying to help us with him. So we connected him, and him and John would hang out all the time. John loved like Latin clubs. He would hang out in Kendall. Right. You know what I'm saying? And so he goes down there and Pitt's, I'm going to meet John tonight. I said, well, listen, do another verse, and then, let's see what John says. So boom. So he goes down there. Our friend Bobby V, who's a DJ, who's a video director now, he plays it, and John's like, the fuck is this? You know what I mean? Because there wasn't a lot of people. It's kind of a chill night. Right. And Pitt's like, yo, it's just some freestyle we're doing or whatever. Lou told me to cut another verse, but whatever. He's like, yo, bro. That was the second person. Was like, yo, bro, this is a hit. So they got in the car and went to Circle House. Shouts out to BB.
Big shout out to BB, man. Big
shout out to BB. Yeah. Those are my people. That's my family. By the way, to go back, probably the real catapult was when I walked in those doors. Because you know what I'm saying? I owe my career to those people. But anyway, so then so Pitt goes to Circle House. Now I don't know this. I'm working, I'm going on, I'm thinking, whatever. John goes in the studio and jumps on the record, right? So like now John's on it, and they do like a quick little rough. I don't even know who worked on it or whatever. And so the next morning I get up and bro, I get a text from Eddie Mix going, we're going nuclear on the song. And I'm like, what song? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you talking about? And I get in my car, bro, and it's like on every hour. And my phone's exploding. Everybody's freaking out. First of all, it's not our song. So we got into mad trouble with, Vegas. It was just a crazy, but you can feel the difference between that record and everything else we had put out. We had Miami, you were there. Miami knew about Pitt, but when that record broke, it was, we couldn't keep up with the stations that were adding it. It was crazy. Insane. Yeah. And that really is kind of what tuned Pitt into sort of like, yo, this is a sound that I need to think more about. You know what I mean? Because that's another thing Hugo and I kept telling him,
And that's, you guys kind of curated his style in a lot of ways. I mean, in so many different ways, because I've heard a lot of stories obviously through Hugo and shit, and you guys kind of molded him into the artist that he is today. And I watched that, he's on tour, and I saw what you posted on his tour right there, that the love that he showed you, and then when he was in Kentucky with Hugo, it was just amazing, dude. Like it really shows the bond that you have, and that he paid homage to both of you guys the way any artist should, and that attributes you guys as such an important factor within Miami music. And it's not just Pitt. Pitt's obviously the main staple there, but from Trick to Trina, Flow Rider, you work with so many talented artists, from Drake, Pitt, KHALED, like there's so many of them.
Yeah. Well, you know what it was? It was just a wave, man. It was the time that we were, the time that Hugo and I got into the game, and the way we did, it was a little bit of luck in the fact that we were in that right sort of, I'm saying, sort of that 10-year span. Everything was bubbling in Miami, and we just happened to be one of the few. Well, Trick and Trina were already out, so Trick and Trina were, but I don't think Trick or Trina were really repping Miami like that. You know what I mean? So
Right.
people knew who they were, but they didn't know they're from the South. You know what I'm saying? They didn't say 305, like, Pitt started the 305 thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when we broke, it kind of the attention came to Miami, and we already knew Ross was next and Flo was coming and KHALED. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was just dope and all that intertwined with Inner Circle and Circle House. So there was such a movement. There's so much energy going on that looking back on it, it looks obvious, but in the moment, you're just kind of like trying to win and, and
you don't know what's going on,
yeah, exactly.
and that's the thing. And that's, you guys find yourself in a position, but it's also the talent too. So,
I mean, for sure.
If somebody else was in that position, they may not have, done the same way. It's just, you guys are just understanding business savvy side of things of music, and then also just being talented in general. I mean, there's a combination of things.
Yeah, and it was also, we were hungrier. You know what I mean? Like, if you think about it, like, you got to think of it from a perspective, by the time Pitt came around, we were already probably 6-7 years into like struggling and trying to figure it out,
Right.
And me personally trying to like do the engineering thing or whatnot. Because remember, when that happened, the story I told you about my brother and that kind of getting me started on the engineering thing, I went through probably 5 long years of just really grinding it out and putting, trying to get my name there. And then hence, because of some of those projects that started with Hugo, led to me meeting Inner Circle and Circle House, and those people like opened the doors to me. They gave me a platform. They treated me like family. So because of their studio had just opened, and I come walking in, and we kind of made that connect. Think about it.
Right.
It just I grew with the studio. You see what I'm saying? So like in 2000, I was already working with a group called Bahaman, which ended up doing Who Let the Dogs Out, which won my first Grammy. So that was just a client of mine. It wasn't even a big group.
Right.
They were the house group in Atlanta at Club Atlantis,
right,
in the Bahamas, and every year they come and record a little record. And that year,
it just so happened to be
that fairy dust came.
Bro.
Exactly.
That's so wild, though, bro.
Yeah, and so what happens is
so
growing in that studio, though, is also what gave everybody else behind me and Hugo, because when we broke, KHALED was in there. We had done an album that's still sitting there. That's never been released. And so there was so much energy coming through that. It was kind of like Grand Central Station for Miami, and BB was working with Hugo, and he's the one who got him on Tricks albums. So by the time we got to Pitt, it was already like, what I'm saying? We were already like hungry for it. So any opportunity, we were all jumping over each other to make it happen,
Would there be like any certain session? I mean, again, man, you work with all the greats, to be honest with you. Like, is there any one session you can remember, like off the top of your head, that was like, yo, like this session right here is special? Like, was there any one that you thought like, damn, bro, like this one right here is it?
There's a couple. One that wasn't really like, we weren't in the studio with the artist, but so it was a radio station, Power 96 in Miami, right? So one of the jocks there, Phil Jones, he got a remix. This is back before Pitt. This is like, we were just getting started, which is the irony of this, I'll credit this big should have come much later. But they had a Janet Jackson record playing. I don't even remember what the record was, and the station dropped it. I guess it didn't do good on phones or whatever it was. So I think it was Virgin at the time. And they called it like, oh, you can't drop Janet. Like, what are you, crazy? So they're like, we'll do whatever. We'll send you a remix. You want to do a remix? And he was like, sure. He goes, how about the Rolling Stones? And so they sent Phil the Rolling Stones, acapella, is ready to do a remix. And so he came to us because we were friends or whatever. And he's like, yo, I don't know what he wasn't a remixer. So me and Hugo worked with him on it. And we did a remix of it, which, I mean, it's a big deal, but whatever. But then had to get cleared, and freaking Mick Jagger called the studio, which was like,
oh my God,
that blew my mind. I was like, yo, I wasn't ready for that, Matter of fact, I didn't even talk to him. I was so scared that I was like, yo, let what's his name? I think Bob, whatever. But that was memorable because it was so early on,
Right.
Later, of course, like I tracked like almost all like the big famous girls. I tracked Beyonce, I tracked Mary J. Blige, Toni Braxton. So being in the room with people like that, what's her name? Lauryn Hill was incredible. Man. Yeah, stupid talented. So being in a room with people like that are super talented is wild, man, because when you're with them 18 hours a day, you start getting to know as a regular person, and then suddenly they hop on the mic and you're like,
what the hell is that?
No wonder, no wonder you're a superstar. So it's a mix of a lot of people, that I was very fortunate to be in the room with, that just were another level of like, just talent and just creativity was incredible. You know what I mean?
Do you think there's like a common like thing? Like, is there a common thing between Like, would you say there's
Mm.
like a common spark, like something in there that's between all these very successful like musicians or artists? Like, what is that? What would you say? I mean, it's
Yeah.
somewhat of a weird question, but like,
Yeah.
what do you think that was that one common denominator between all of them?
You know, I would say that they're all in a way, right? Like, I don't know how to say this so it doesn't come out weird, but everybody's strange, but in their own way. I don't know if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
Like,
right. Yeah.
nobody that I've worked with was ever like this normal. You know what I'm saying? When I say normal, I mean, you know, outside the music world, we call them
Right.
civilians. You know what I'm saying? So,
Civilians.
yeah, exactly. So
This is true.
everybody has like maybe when you first meet it, you might say, oh, you know, this, you know, so you know, really down to earth, whatnot.
Yeah.
But there's always something that you're like, yeah, man, you're out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It does. To be honest with you, like this business is so hard to get even the first break, right?
Right.
It'll break you before you get your first break.
Right. Oof,
So it takes a certain
deep.
type of person, right? It takes something like you got to be a little like, you know, not a little off center to really
Right.
be able to like logically say, this is what I'm gonna do. You know what I mean? Jump off.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's crazy, yeah.
See, that right there is a gem too, because you know,
Yeah.
like it's, you know what it is, it's just perseverance, you know, like, and I guess you gotta be a little crazy, and not crazy.
Yeah.
I hate, you know,
Yeah.
you gotta,
Yeah.
you know, tread that line, but like, you know, it's true though. You have to be so undoubtedly believing in yourself that
Right.
you don't give a shit about the world's going on around
Right.
you. In essence,
Right.
that's really what it boils
Right.
down to.
And it's also like the what do you call it? I guess the fortitude, or what's the other word? Just to be able to, bro, you get knocked down so much.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people don't know, like, you know, you see it from the outside looking in. I got the privilege to see a lot of behind the scene things that happen and whatnot, especially with Pitt. You know, we were a big part of his career, and KHALED, I was around for a lot of that. And you think, oh, you know, you're KHALED, man, you're Pitt. Now, bro, people try you every day of your life. And I don't mean, I don't mean on some street, you know, I don't mean on like, you know, fighting thing. I'm talking more corporate, and, you know, it's just so many things that I remember. I can look back and be like, man, it takes a lot to sort of get up from that and still feel like you're saying, like, you got to believe in yourself, like, wholeheartedly. But you get hit a couple times, that's when the test really comes, where you can get back up and dust yourself off and really continue to build. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And I've seen those guys do that, man. It's not easy. It's not easy to be an artist.
You know, you're from an engineering standpoint, from a mixing standpoint. I mean, I know you have master classes. I know you're working with a lot of, you know, major companies out there.
Yeah.
You know, those elements from a mixing perspective, where you stand, like when you sit in the chair, what is the relationship that you think makes a good dynamic for a good mixing engineer to an artist? Like, what's that relationship like that you think would not only builds obviously that trust, but what is that relationship feel that you think works best as an engineer?
You know, I like to say, like, for me personally, it was and I've been fortunate of, like I said, you know, being part of the whole Circle House system. You know, I was able to sort of record some of these artists first, become friends with them. You know what I mean? There's a comfort level that comes, especially when you're a tracking engineer. I stopped tracking years ago, but mine has been just because I worked with sort of the same people and kept that sort of relationship going. So there's a comfort in that. There's a trust because, you know, obviously after years of doing, you get to know the artist and all that. So I would say for me, not for everybody. I know some people don't get to know nobody. They come in to do their, you know, the mix and they're out. But ultimately, I think the best advice I would give somebody who wants to do what I do or be a mix engineer is, you know, to try to kind of like make yourself not be the thing. You know, I find a lot of engineers get a little too like, yo, you know, it's got to be my sound. I'm known for this.
Right.
I'm really transparent. Like, whatever they want, I'm here to make that vision happen. Remember, like, you wouldn't have a career if it wasn't for these artists and their talent. So however crazy that vision may seem to you might be like, nah, there's no way I'm making it sound like that. I learned early on to be like, you know what? You got to let that, because then later, you know, you listen back to some of the stuff and you thought you were cringing and you're like, yo, this record's huge. This like record like put money on the table. I mean, food on my table. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's really about being connected with the artist and understand that you come second. You know what I'm saying? That'd probably be the best advice I would say. And obviously, work at your craft. Be good at what you do. You know what I'm saying? You can't
absolutely
be nice. A nice guy's not going to get you the work. But if you're good at what you do, is I think just respecting the fact that you're there to to help the artists make their vision come alive. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. Very well said. And I think a lot, like you said, a lot of engineers or people that sitting in that chair, they kind of orchestrate shit that's just like, oh, it's my sound, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like you have to mold. I mean, you have you have your input, but you mold yourself around that artist, and that's probably the most important thing. Working with Drake and working with Khaled must have been multiple occasions, obviously, must have been
that was fun.
An amazing experience. Do you think the process, what's the difference, like process wise, as far as the way Drake approaches things to the way Khaled approaches things? Do you think that they're very similar or very different?
Well, they're different in that for starters, with the Drake thing, I worked on one record with Drake that was a Khaled record, right? So I went to Toronto because back then Khaled wouldn't fly. So Khaled was like, yo, he wasn't taking the bus all the way to Toronto. Yeah. So when he heard, he was like, look, man, and really 40 is Drake Scott, right? Like how I worked with Khaled for years, 40 is Drake Scott. But Khaled was like, look, I need you to go. You got to be there. You got to be a part of it. So me and 40 mixed it together. So I flew up there. First of all, 40 and Drake, the nicest people, bro. Like, which is super. It was super dope to also meet Drake. Sometimes you don't know, man. You see people on TV and you think they're nice, and behind closed doors is like a whole nother situation. Right. Drake was genuine, man. A real good dude. 40, great people, man. Just down to earth. There was no ego at all. So anyway, but the difference, really, the big difference between Drake and Khaled is like he's one of a kind because he's not really like an artist. Like he's kind of like a coach. Right. So there's no real, Drake, when we were there, he was, creating and we were mixing or whatever. He was already done doing the record, but he was still kind of like being partaking in the mix. He's an artist. So he comes from works, jumps to the, builds records and, with producers and writes or whatever. But with Khaled, it's just like Khaled gets the vocals from here, gets the vocals from there. All these different people, basically, wherever they are, decide, all right, we're jumping on the record. Now, obviously, Khaled tells them, look, this is what I'm looking for. Gives them the energy, gives them the Khaled talk, Actually, Khaled's projects were real cool because they were so difficult to put together, you know what I mean? And make them sound like they were actually something that was planned together, you know what I'm saying? Right, yeah. In that sense, Drake's not like that because obviously he's an artist, but yeah, Khaled is from an engineering perspective, it was challenging, man, but it made me a lot better of an engineer, generally.
I could imagine. I mean, Khaled is one of those, he's from a producer standpoint, arranging things, you know what I mean? Like, and organizing the correct artists and getting that in there. Right. The one thing about Khaled, I think, is that he's mastered the craft of networking, and I think that is the key. In my personal opinion, is the key to success is that he's built those relationships. He's very smart. He knows music. He knows exactly what it is that would sound good. How important is it within the music industry? Obviously, it's important, but from your perspective of what you've seen with other artists, the importance of networking, because I preach that on the show all the time. That's more important than anything else, is the networking aspect of things.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's like I always look at a career, whether you're an engineer, a producer, an artist, like look at it like a pie, right? So every slice has to have, you gotta make sure everything's handled. You know what I mean? You can't just be the most talented person in the world and have great records and they sound like crap, or you're not networking or you're not marketing right. So there's a full picture to this to be successful. So definitely, I definitely second what you're saying. Like networking is a huge part. In Khaled, I mean, that was like his ticket, man. He just had a knack for it, and it was the time. Remember, he was like the hottest DJ in South Florida, and all the artists would come to South Florida. They'd party. Khaled would play the records, and Khaled would just be like, all right, man, I'm gonna play your record. I'm gonna drop bombs. I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do, but you owe me. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. And so I remember him, tucking those favors. Like I watched him real time doing that, and I remember when we first started, like the first album, which was now, wasn't We the Best? Was We the Best the first one? Damn, I'm forgetting. But anyway, so the first record, and during that time, I saw him work the set. I saw him work with artists, and artists like, yo, Khaled, nah, man, for real, you really got to come through. Like the pressure he would put on people, I was like, man. And he would ride that line where he would be a pain in the ass, but you know what I mean? He'd be cool. Yeah, exactly. I saw him be like, yo, this is crazy. And I remember thinking, at the time, my assistant engineer was Ben Billions.
Oh
The
yeah.
producer Ben Billis. He was an assistant of mine at the time. He wasn't even a producer. And I remember saying to Ben, I was like, "Yo, bro, just Khaled, watch how he's gonna put it together." Because I
Yeah.
saw it and I knew Khaled from
Yeah.
before then. So I thought, you know, you don't know how long it was gonna take, but I knew if he kept it up and he had the stamina, and he did, and
Yeah.
it worked, man. You know, so I always tip my hat off to Khaled because a lot of people are like, "Yo, what does he do?" But like he sees the vision from the beginning. Like, you know,
Oh
he
yeah.
calls himself an artist, all he does is tag the top, but like literally, like I've seen people give him verses that are better than verses on their album. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
The motivator, man.
He's a motivator.
Big
He's
time.
he's very smart and strategic. Is I
Absolutely.
think is a word, you know, because
Yeah.
he just knows,
Yeah.
you know, what he's doing, and he
Yeah.
has a vision. And I think when you have a vision, I mean, that's really what it the most important thing
Yeah.
is, you know.
But that networking, man, he parlayed that into like
Yeah.
you know, a ginormous career, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
but
listen, your style of how you engineer. All right. So this is not gonna be a straight on answer, I know.
okay.
So
Go.
I mean, you're is there a secret essence in
Hmm.
mixing that you could say, listen, this is the one thing you need to do? Because we have a lot of people that watch the show, rewatch the show. We got people from all over the country
Right.
too, like
Right.
that rewatch it. That's, you know, they're sleeping right now, but we get a lot of people that are going to school doing and hopefully being in the position that you're in right now. Is there
Right.
like not necessarily a secret sauce, but like is there a certain element within mixing that you're like, okay, it needs to have this, this, and this, or whatever the case may be? Are there certain elements that you feel like that's this mix needs to have? Every record needs to have these 2 or 3 things, whatever the case may be.
So for me, because it's a personal preference for me, right? But the
Mm-hmm.
drums to me,
Mm-hmm.
like the vocal is the artist is the most important thing, right? So
Mm-hmm.
you can't ever lose sight of that. You're gonna make sure whether a singer, a writer, I mean a singer, a rapper, whatever, that they're front center, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the music to me is what makes the artist lyrics come alive, right? Or give an impact. So
Mm-hmm.
to me, because I started as a drummer, and you know, my story was all about drums, I've always made sure that the kick and the snare feel. So when you're in a club or you're in the car, that's slapping and moving you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it's vocal, kick, snare are all sort of in the same. With the vocal just a bit higher, right? If we're talking like presence, it's way more complicated than that. But if that's sort of the way you approach it, at least the way I have,
Right.
and that's what a lot of people have liked about what I do, which has got me my clients and all that. But overall, I think you know it's just I think it's really more about like you understanding sound, listening to other people's mixes, finding
Right.
out why it sounds the way it does,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and then learning how to do like less is more. When you get really
Right.
good, you start doing less.
Yeah.
And I know that's weird to say.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's true.
Right, you do less because now you know you're like, you know what? I'll give you a perfect example. Not to take too much time, but like I think I was working with Cool and Dre. This is early on, and I must have had a wall of gear on this kick. You know, back then we used to put there were plugins that were actually gear,
Mm-hmm.
and I remember hearing, I'm thinking, man, this kick is just beating me up, man. I can't get it to sound right.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I thought, you know what? Hold up, and I just took off the insert point, ripped everything out of the patch bay, just turned the fader up, turned the speakers up, put a little 10K on it, and I was like, damn, that sounds good. You know what I mean? I was just getting burnt out. I was getting burnt out by listening to too much. And that experience makes you go, you know what? That's straight. You don't got to put plugins and everything on everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes the sauce is a little less sauce, you know?
Bro, that's Matt. I'm gonna give you a quick round of applause for that one. I like that because no, it's true, man. Like
I appreciate that,
the simplicity of things is that you know, in every artist, anybody within music, you know, you overthink things, to say the least. You know what I mean? That's really the
exactly.
issue.
You could overthink it, man. And you could overthink yourself into a bad mix. You know, even like with a beat or with a song, you could write a record out of a hit. You had a hit record when you started, and you wrote it so much. And you know, sometimes your first instincts are the ones that matter. But I mean, you know, there's definitely times where the experience and the technical and the plugins and everything helps, and it saves you from, you know. But you got to know when to attack. I mean, it can't just all be fire away. You know what I'm saying? Like you have to have a balance. And it's about, you know, your ear. Be patient with yourself, man, because your ear grows. Like as you work and you listen more and you listen back to stuff you did, and you hear new stuff, your ear starts growing. You'll notice it because you'll say one day, "Damn, I never heard that before," and now I'm hearing it. Yeah. Like me, I'm in a car and I'm like, I hear all kinds of shit that I probably shouldn't be listening to. You know what I mean? Like I missed the record.
And this, you know, this off to the side, but like, when you listen to your mixes, do you listen to it in the car, in the studio? Like you listen to it in various different areas? Because I know a lot of people do that.
When I'm working on the record, like if I'm working here or whatever, and I finish, I always take a ride in my car, and I always do. My process is usually like my turnaround time, like when people hire me, unless it's like major rushes, usually between 7 to 10 days, because I take my time because I'm able to work in my own room now. Although I do still work at other studios, but I mean, like I do the majority of it in my studio. I like to take the break because I understand that you get burnt out. You follow me? So then I'll work 4 or 5 hours, cool, get it to where I feel it's good, and then I'll jump to something else and then call it a day. Next day I get up and pick up again and be like, whoa, let me change this, let me change that.
Right.
Those are crucial. That's when you make the best decisions because now you got fresh ears, different perspective. So by the third day, I should be good. That's when I take my car ride and I just ride out to it or whatever. But once I turn a record in and it's mastered and it's out and it hits radio, that's probably the last time I'm listening to it. I don't listen to it.
So it's so funny because a lot of people that, a lot of actors, they say the same shit. They don't even watch their own fucking movies.
I'm
really tired of that shit.
It is. I mean, of course,
similar.
I listen to records from before, but like, I don't purposely listen. I'm like, that's it.
I'm done with it. I'm done with this shit.
Exactly.
Lou, bro, listen, bro. I appreciate you, man. So much,
my pleasure, bro.
Listen,
my pleasure.
bro. I know you're busy, man, bro. I don't want to take up too much of your time, bro. And I want to tell you, first of all, I appreciate you. I appreciate Hugo. Listen, I work with Hugo so many fucking years, bro, in the studio with him, bro. And
you know.
I know, trust me. And I learned so much from him. I attribute the person I am today, the knowledge with the music, within even doing the show, things like that. I learned from him, and it's
awesome, bro.
And he learns shit from you too. And I want to tell you, man, first of all, I appreciate everything you've done for Miami music culture. I appreciate all the artists that you've helped evolve. I saw the rise of everything in the music within that time frame.
Right.
And it's just a blessing to actually talk to you today, bro, to be honest.
Oh, no, listen, my pleasure, brother. And listen, like I checked out the show you did with BB, and he said it to you, bro. These platforms to me, which is why we support them, is because you're able to give people, you know what I'm saying, like artists and engineers, whoever, just a window, quick window in there. Like in my day when I was coming up, they weren't there, like I was lucky enough to be in Miami when Miami was bubbling. But if it wasn't for that, man, it's hard to get a perspective from someone that, you don't know. Right. And to get these little nuggets, man, these little things, I know they amount. It's not just mine, but as you watch different things. So having a platform like you're doing, bro, stay at it, bro, because you're just like an artist and a producer. You gotta weather through this, man. But you're gonna put it together. I see you doing it.
Absolutely, man. And that's the thing, bro. I learned my hustle and grind from Hugo too, just like you, bro. So that's something I mold my mentality behind, bro, and I always have. And it's just still a new show to me. So I'm still getting my feet wet too. But
you're doing great, bro. You're doing great. Just keep it going, bro. It's a great platform. You're doing a great thing, bro. You do something good like that, it's gonna build and it's gonna give you another avenue. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, man. So again, man, Lu Diaz, bro, I truly apprate you, man. Listen, you guys gotta follow, please. My man Lu Diaz at I am Lu Diaz. Go to ludiaz.net as well. For anybody that needs mixing or anything along those lines, if they could reach out to you, I'm sure they have that contact on ludiaz.net.
Yeah, .net and .com. Either.
Yep.
That's pretty much everything's there. And then my wife's the boss, man. She handles everything for me. I don't even.
Absolutely. Hey, that's how it is, bro. Trust me. It is, bro.
Or you can DM me on Instagram or whatever. It's all good, man. I'm always around. I'm not in social media as much as I should be, but I'm there.
You know what, man? Again, bro, I want to give a big shout out to you, man. You have been, again, bro, a very instrumental part in my personal life, whether you realize it or not, man. Same thing with your brother, bro. And I am very grateful for growing up in Miami at the time that you guys did the damn thing, bro. You guys are still doing the damn thing. Trust me, you guys are still doing it. So.
No, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate your words, bro. And like I said, man, it was. I'm glad to be doing this show now. Hopefully, in a few months later, we can do another episode.
Let's do it, bro. I would love to, man. I would love to, bro. Let's do another one, man. I would love to do it. Awesome, again, bro, nothing but love, man. I appreciate you. God bless you, man. Thank you and the family, bro. Thank you so much, man.
Appreciate that, bro.
The one, the only, bro. This guy right here is that guy right here, man. Lu Diaz, bro. Love you, bro. Appreciate you, man. Thank you, man.
Thanks, man. Peace. Yep.
Bro, dope.